When Thanksgiving comes around, I can't help but look at a simple pie and want to make it look more festive. It's the cake maker in me. I'm going to show you a variety of techniques to dress up that plain old pie. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is a lattice top. I'm going to make a couple different shapes. Let's start out with a braid. Now, this dough's gotten a little bit warm. I want to make sure it's nice and cool when I'm using it so that butter firms up. It's kind of like braiding hair. Not that I know much about that. And there it is. Here's a fun thing to do. I'm going to cut some very, very thin strips. And you grab these two, make a little twist. Roll it into a little snake. Take a pair of scissors. You cut it about 3/4 of the way through. Cutting it on a bias, which means an angle. Then you can turn it into a little shaft of wheat berries. Listen, it's really cool when you do stuff like this because it shows people that you care. People get really excited about a pie that looks good. All right, here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna make a regular pumpkin pie, and then you're gonna par bake it about halfway. All you wanna do is make sure that the top gets firm enough to be able to hold some kind of decoration. All right, let's put this lattice pie together. Let's start out with this nice twisty guy right in the middle. I'm gonna slide this guy right into here. Now let's pick this one up, lay down this braid. Now if the little of the pie comes off, don't sweat it. Here's a cool one I made with some circles. See, I love the asymmetry here. You know, instead of a regular lattice pie, when you just have like slat, 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 it kind of gets a little boring after a while. But this, there's like so much going on. All right, now let's take a knife and trim off the extra. Here's the thing is that usually when you bring a pie somewhere, somebody else is probably bringing a pie. And like, you know, not everything in life is a competition, but it kind of is. And so if you roll in with this masterpiece, you're gonna be like, what's up? Look at this pie. Okay, that's the top. But what about the edge? I got something special. So here, what I did was I made a big long braid and shaped it into a circle. Now we're gonna egg wash the whole thing, and then we're gonna put some sugar on top. So what I'm using is turbinado sugar. Not only is it gonna make it sweet, but it's gonna give it a lot of texture. All right, let's bake it off. Now let me show you how to make some roses. First, I'm gonna take a circle cutter. I'm gonna cut out 6 circles. Take a tiny bit of egg wash, and on 2 of the circles, I'm gonna wet a little bit of it. And then stick these here. Now we're just gonna roll these up. I'll make sure you're just touching the inside, not the outside. Now you take your thumb and your index finger, and you pinch, pinch, pinch. Tear it in half. All right, you see it? All right, let me show you another thing. We're gonna make some leaves and vines to go with those roses. Take your circle and you're just gonna cut a tangent. Now, with the paring knife, I'm gonna cut some little jagged edges in those rose leaves. Just like in nature, every one of these leaves is unique and they have a lot of imperfections. You know, if something doesn't have imperfections, it looks like it was made in a factory somewhere. Now, I'm gonna cut some very, very thin strips. Okay, now here's my pie. I'm gonna gently lay down this pie crust into some vine-like shapes. Now let's get some leaves. Put one here, put one here. Now let's get our roses. Let's go here, put one right here, right there. All right, now, you gotta make sure you egg wash everything. If you don't get the egg wash on there, it's gonna look a little weird. You know, I tell you, man, when I make a really good looking pie, I am so stoked. Like, I know I make beautiful cakes, but pie I'm not as confident with. So when I make a really beautiful pie, it's like instantly on social media. I'm a big fan of trick desserts, often called imposters, where a baked treat is made to look like something it's not. Think about it. The best way to eat what you like at Thanksgiving is pile up a huge fork full of the good stuff and eat it all together. So these cupcakes basically do the work for you. It's like a whole feast in one bite. So I'm gonna make a bread pudding cupcake, frosted with mashed potatoes, torched off, and topped with chives. After Thanksgiving, everybody has seen this sitting in the fridge, leftover stuffing. It's got bread, it's got celery, we got some spices. This is a great way to kind of reconstitute that stuff and make something really delicious out of it. First thing I'm gonna do is take a cup of heavy cream, 2 eggs, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, So we whip this up, and now we got a quick savory custard base. I'm gonna take all of my leftover stuffing. All right, you put that on the floor, the dog can lick it out. And now I'm just gonna mash up the stuffing and the custard. You wanna let this custard soak in a little bit. So once you get this all in here, let it sit for just like 20 minutes or a half an hour. All right, now, I'm gonna prep the muffin pans and bake off our cupcakes. For me to find a cupcake interesting, it's gotta be something that you're not expecting. And that is usually something that's either frosted with mashed potatoes or has a bunch of cheese all over it. So unlike a regular cupcake, when you put it in the oven, it's gonna rise, these don't really move that much. So whatever size they are when you put them in the oven, that's the size they're gonna be when you take them out. All right, I'm gonna bake these off at 375 degrees for 15 minutes until they're a nice golden brown. Look, it's either a muffin or it's a cupcake, you know, and you gotta pick one. So if you wanna make cupcakes, you gotta do frosting. So, got some leftover mashed potatoes, got a half a cup of cream, got some butter. A little bit of sour cream is gonna make this stuff a little more pliant. Use a whip attachment. Now, we don't want to turn these mashed potatoes to glue, so be gentle. So what we're doing is we're adding a little bit more dairy to this just to make it so you can actually pipe this out and it looks good. Also gives it a little more flavor, makes it a little more rich. All right, those are good. Now, most cupcakes get sprinkles. These cupcakes are gonna get chives. You don't see me working with vegetables very often. Okay, so got all these nice chives. I think our stuffing cupcakes are done. These are nice and crispy. You can smell the butter. So the custard is holding all this stuff together. This is really easy. You can totally do this. Mashed potatoes in the bag. Yup. For me, I think mashed potatoes, chives, stuffing, it's a nice combination on the plate. I think all we're missing is cranberry sauce and a little gravy. Now, before you put the sprinkles on, let's torch these things. Gives it a nice crunchy texture, also gives it a little bit more flavor. Now we can add the sprinkles. Those look awesome. All right, so that's one Thanksgiving meal in a cupcake, but I got a couple other ideas too. I took leftover cream spinach, added custard to that, baked it off, and now I have these nice cupcake bases. Then I was thinking to myself, for the frosting on my spinach cupcakes, I'll do a feta cream. Then just a tiny, tiny pinch of Hungarian paprika. You know what, looks like I got some leftover chives too, why not? That's a holiday cupcake. But what about all that leftover bacon? What are you gonna do with that? Why don't you make cornbread bacon cupcakes with a honey buttercream? That is a handsome looking group right there. For these holiday recipes and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot. The holidays bring out the wizard magic dessert maker in me. So today, I want to show you guys how to make s'mores. Do this and you'll take your ordinary campfire dessert inside for the holidays and you'll blow it through the roof. All right, so there's a couple steps to making marshmallows. The first thing we're gonna do is prep the pan that they're gonna go into. I'm gonna use a half sheet cake pan so I can get a nice deep marshmallow. Now what you're gonna do is take some powdered sugar and cover this thing. This is gonna make sure the marshmallow doesn't stick to the plastic. And it is the holidays, it looks like it's snowing. And when kids see me make the marshmallow, they're like, wait a minute, you know how to make marshmallows? All right, so now what you're gonna do is cook sugar. We're gonna cook the sugar to 260 degrees. What you need to cook the sugar is a little bit of water, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of corn syrup, 3 tablespoons. Just stir it around a little bit so it looks like wet sand. Then we're gonna cook this on high. This is a candy thermometer. It has all the temperatures, but it also has all the names of the different stages that you cook sugar to. So 260 degrees looks like hard ball. So I'm gonna clip this guy right to the edge, and then this is gonna tell me when the sugar is ready to go. Okay, so while the sugar's cooking, we're gonna bloom some gelatin. All right, so here's how I like to do this. I like to get the water in there really quick and then whisk it together to make sure that all the gelatin is touching the water and the whole thing blooms evenly. This stuff is gonna turn into like a hockey puck. See it getting all thick? All right. You can see the sugar going, and it looks like we're at 225 right now. Okay, so I got 2 egg whites, cooking sugar, and some gelatin. We're basically making an Italian meringue and thickening it with gelatin. Eggs going there. I like a little bit of lemon juice. Not only does it give it flavor, but it also gives the meringue a stability. All right, now check out the gelatin. Wow, it looks crazy, right? So that's what gelatin looks like when it's bloomed. So I'm gonna start this guy whipping. You're not whipping this up to a big meringue, you just wanna get it frothy. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. Also gonna add a pinch of salt. All right, so you see all that sugar cooking in there. We are totally there. Okay, so take it off the heat. Be very careful with the thermometer. That's all hot sugar on the bottom of that thing. I'm gonna put the gelatin into the sugar, and the hot sugar is gonna melt the gelatin. And now we're gonna slowly pour this into the meringue. So what you're gonna do is basically whip it until it's cool. As the mixture cools down, that gelatin is gonna trap more air, and you'll see it whip up really quickly. Try to move it around so you don't have to futz with this stuff too much. And you're just gonna gently, without knocking the air out, you just wanna even this out. Okay, I'm gonna push it into the corners here. Now it's nice and smooth. More powdered sugar. Okay, make sure you can't see any shiny stuff. I'm gonna get some more plastic wrap. Gently go on top, just like that. Now, put this in a cool, dry place. Not the fridge, in the kitchen somewhere, in the pantry. Just put it away. Fresh marshmallows are really magical. You know, it seems like you know, an elf would be in there making that thing, but it's not true. Like, I'm the elf. You can be the elf too. Okay, so I think we're ready to cut out some marshmallows and build our s'mores. I'm gonna brush off all this extra powdered sugar. So we got our marshmallows feeling good, and we got a cutter. It's a big marshmallow. Look at that thing. All right, now look, you can get different cutters. You know, you can do a little heart. Can you imagine that in like a little cup of cocoa? I want to burn these marshmallows on the sheet tray. If I burn these on the plate, we got other stuff that's going on the plate, and the torch is gonna melt those things. Now, I like them really dark. If you don't like them this dark, don't torch them that dark. Okay, I'm gonna pipe a little mousse. Take a graham cracker. Tiny little bit of cocoa powder, just for some color. Marshmallow. I also got some really cool looking little cracker cookies, little sticks. Cause like, you know, when you're camping, you put the marshmallow on a stick and hold it over the fire. So I figured like, this would be like a nice little play on the stick. And there you go. Fresh marshmallows are really easy to make, and the taste between the stuff that comes in a bag, night and day. For this holiday recipe and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot. An edible gift box is a spectacular way to impress someone at the holidays. I want to show you guys how to take an entremet and present it inside a decorated box. You know, if I was having a holiday party in my house, I would want to do something that was really special. There's some desserts that should be elevated into art. So the way these are built is that there's a little crispy cookie underneath, and on top of that is a white chocolate mousse. Once that's all firmed up, I made a red glaze, poured it over the top, and then just tipped it with a little bit of edible gold. All right, so let's make the box that's gonna go around this entremet. I got some gum paste, some stencils, and an X-Acto. So I'm gonna take a little cornstarch and roll this guy out. You wanna get this to about 1/8 of an inch thick. So, I'm gonna make frames. So I'm gonna take the big square, I'm gonna take a pastry cutter and go across like this. Nice and straight. Now we're gonna use the X-Acto knife. First, I'm gonna gently score the top. If you try to stick the knife all the way through on your very first pass, you're gonna pull the gum paste and it's gonna change shape. And now, I will in size. There you go. Now all you gotta do is do that about 7 more times. All right, listen, when you're making one of these, take your time. Some of them are gonna break. It's just gonna happen. Make sure you have a couple extras. Okay, so I got a nice flat sheet pan, and then on it is a piece of acetate. I'm gonna take some cornstarch and a little strainer like this. You want just a nice, even layer of cornstarch. Looks pretty good. Okay, now let's put our frames down. All right, so I got some royal icing and a cornet. I'm gonna cut off the tip. I wanna go about 7 millimeters. Now what I'm gonna do is just pipe some lines, and this is gonna be the framework for the finer detail that's gonna happen later on. Now you can make any pattern you want. Just realize the bigger space you have in between each line, the more delicate the piping is gonna be. Okay, so I set the pipe frames aside for about 2 hours to dry. Now before you work with this, make sure to dust off any extra cornstarch. Okay, now, you want to position your frame so the front side is down, and you just want to suspend it by the corners. What you want to do is just pipe nice little thin lines and just let gravity kind of make them into loops. And you're just laying them on top. And then when you stand this thing up, it's going to look really cool, I promise. You can totally do this. So whenever one of them breaks, just remove it from your frame, throw it away, and pipe a new line. So as the lines get longer, they get a lot more fragile. All right, so now you just gotta let these dry, no sudden movements, then we're gonna build our box. So the way to build one of these desserts is basically the way you build a card house. You start with one, you add a wall to that, and then once you have 2 walls that are leaning against each other, you can build everything else on that foundation. So far, so good. Now, if I measured everything right, the top should fit. Please fit. Okay, fits. It's good. All right, but I think what we want to do is just a little bit of decoration. Just kind of make the box sparkle a bit. So I got some really nice kind of taupe and gold dragées here. I'm just trying to make the box a little bit more interesting. But the decoration is actually reinforcing the structure, right? So every time I do another line here, it's gonna make sure that this thing is gonna make it from the kitchen to the table where somebody's waiting for it. Now, look, you've taken a long time and you've built this amazingly beautiful dessert, and now you get to destroy it. And you have to be okay with that. Make this for something holiday worthy, or just make one because they're cool. For this recipe and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot. Christmas morning is both savory and sweet. So I thought, if I'm gonna make a pastry dough, let me make it a few ways. Pat a choux, it's a light and fluffy, eggy pastry that melts in your mouth when it's done right. First, I'll make a savory one, and then I'm gonna want dessert, of course. This isn't like a breakfast that you're gonna have like before you go to work. This is like, we're gonna be in the house all day, we're gonna be like watching football, opening presents, hanging out. Let's make something amazing. So let's talk the dough. Here's how you make pat a choux. First thing you do is turn on the heat under the pot. Okay, now we're gonna go water, butter. Now I go ahead and salt it now. Big generous pinch. Pat a choux is really amazing stuff. There is so many things you can do with it. It's basically a roux that you beat eggs into, and you bake it off. So as soon as this boils, I'm gonna dump in all that flour. We're gonna cook this down. You don't want any lumps. There we go. And see, it just kind of turns into a nice paste. All right, so what you want to do is you want to cook this down until the dough forms a ball. All right, so it looks like I got a really nice pat a choux. You know, the dough is grabbing itself. It's not really coming apart anymore. We want to mix this until all the steam stops. As soon as the steam stops, we can add eggs without fear of cooking them. Okay, I think we're almost out of steam. This is the tricky part. There's usually a certain number of eggs that a recipe will call for, but in the case of pat a choux, you want to add eggs until it looks right. But when it looks right, I'll tell you. So let's start out with the first egg. One at a time, guys. Don't get too excited. You definitely need another egg. Not yet. It's still too stiff. What you're looking for is spokes. We kind of have spokes, but they're a little ragged. I'm gonna say one more egg. Now, you see how it falls, but it still holds its shape? That's ready.
One of my favorite savories you can do with pâte à choux is a gougère. This dough is already delicious. Add a bunch of cheese to it? Come on.
Okay, for the gougères, we got a bunch of shredded manchego. Dump it all in here. I'm gonna save some for the top. Mix that around real good. Let's get our cheesy pâte à choux into this bag. Okay, so I got a sheet tray. Hold the bag still, and then give it a whoosh. So the technical term for this is whoosh, pipe. Whoosh. Shake some of this stuff here. Put that cheese on top. So, pâte à choux bakes hot. So you're gonna bake this stuff at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. Then to dry it out, you turn it down to 375, bake it for another 15 minutes. All right, so while our savory gougères are in the oven, my pâte à choux sans cheese goes into a waffle iron. Just gonna pipe pâte à choux right into, just like that. Okay, let's see what happens. So you pipe in your pâte à choux and then you wait for the beep. I'm gonna turn this because I'm gonna get us. Okay, let's see. Oh man, look at those.
Yeah, it's always funny when people see me doing savory. They're like, what? You're a cake guy, you make cakes. I'm like, yes, I make cakes. I also make sausage.
Let's make some mini breakfast sliders. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this cheese down to be the right size. And it's Christmas morning, so you want this to look good. So we got this chorizo cooking. Chorizo is a delicious sausage. And then the quail eggs, they're not the easiest thing in the world to find. They're really fun to cook with. And they look like dinosaur eggs too, don't they? That looks nice. I'm just gonna cut these gougères in half. First, we're gonna go down with the bottoms. Next is gonna come our little sausages. These are wee little quail eggs. A little bit of greens. I'm gonna take a little bit of this chipotle aioli, and that is a Christmas morning breakfast. The only thing that can top that sandwich is dessert. This is homemade cinnamon roll ice cream. That's gonna go right on top, just like that. So I made dulce de leche for my sundae. Got some whipped cream, a little quinoa right on top, and then fouilletine, basically crushed up ice cream cones. A dough this good and versatile, it's like a present on Christmas morning. For this holiday recipe and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot. Entertaining at New Year's Eve is something I do rarely, but I do know a thing or two about how to put on a good party. I also have a few ideas on how to put decadence into a single bite of dessert. I'm gonna make something I know Elvis would love. Some banana panna cotta. I'm gonna top that with bacon, peanut praline, and some peanut butter mousse that's whipped up just right. All right, so here's what goes in the peanut butter mousse. Peanut butter, butter, and powdered sugar, and we're gonna cream that together, and we're gonna make it satiny. You'll see the color start to darken. That's that peanut butter basically taking over everything else. Now let's add our liquid. A little bit of vanilla, a little bit of corn syrup. So the corn syrup is really gonna loosen this up and give it that satiny texture. Don't keep the mixer on forever. If you overmix this stuff, it may break. So when it looks nice, stop the mixer. All right, the mixer is occupied, so we're gonna whip our cream by hand. Make a figure 8. It's a lot more efficient. I'm gonna take a little bit of this cream, and I'm not gonna be very gentle, so I wanna loosen up this peanut butter a little bit more. Now I'll take the rest of the cream. Let's fold. There's a big difference between folding and mixing. Mixing, I just sit here and stir and stir and stir until everything comes together. Folding, I'm trying not to knock all the air out of my mousse. All right, and once you got this folded, put it in a piping bag and put it in the fridge.
I like the flavor of fresh bananas, but I like eating a banana. I'm gonna put a banana on something, I'm gonna roast them, I'm gonna fry them, I'm gonna do something to them. In this case, we're gonna puree them.
I think the superstar of this dessert is the banana panna cotta. How can you not say banana cotta? From here on out, I'm only gonna say banana cotta. I'm the chef. First thing we're gonna do, take some gelatin, pour it in a pot. And then we take milk and heavy cream. So we're gonna let this stuff bloom, just like that. Gonna add some sugar and the seeds of one vanilla bean and the husk as well. So we want to heat this up so all of our gelatin melts. All right, so you want this to come to a boil because you're trying to get all the flavor out of the vanilla beans. So you can see the way that the vanilla is behaving, that this is a little bit thicker. Okay, and then boom. We have boiled, my friends. And now let's go into the blender. So a lot of good stuff is gonna stick to the bottom of the pot. It's a lot of flavor in there. Make sure you get all this stuff out. Vanilla ain't cheap. Okay, bananas are a really mellow flavor. So you wanna brighten those up a little bit. So we're gonna add a little bit of lemon juice to this. Also, you're gonna add a little bit of salt. Here we go. That's some goodness right there. Pour in the panna cotta base and let it get firm in the fridge. All right, guys, let's build this dessert. So let's start with some fouilletine. Fouilletine is basically just crushed up ice cream cones. I'm gonna do a little pile. I'm gonna take a chocolate cup. I'm gonna place it right in the center. You can totally buy these things. Nobody's gonna think less of you, it's okay. Here's our panna cotta. I'm gonna take the little cutter. I'm just gonna pop this right into the chocolate cup. Some peanut butter mousse. Kind of feel like a decadent New Year's dessert really isn't complete without bacon. Don't forget about the candy of meats. Bacon it up. And this peanut praline. And there you go. Decadence in a bite. For this recipe and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot.